I do have with me, Dan, this morning, Rudolph Zinn. He's a professor in policing and forensic investigations at eNCA. He's going to explain to us a little bit about some of the testimony that we've heard this morning. Rudolph, thank you for joining us on Morning News today. Let's just first talk about the sounds and what three of these neighbors have so far testified about hearing, which is screams before gunshots were heard at Oscar Pistorius' house. Now, this was over a year ago on Valentine's Day. We do know that the defense saying yesterday they conducted sound tests in the area between the houses as early as 2 weeks ago. Now, would something like that be valid? Would it be credible? Would it be admissible, given that Michelle Berger has said there are now houses in that space where they weren't last year between the two houses?
It's doubtful whether it would be that important at this stage. I think it's more important whether the witnesses were credible in what they heard. What would be most likely more crucial is the evidence that the defense said they're going to lead as far as an audio forensic expert in the sounds that they heard, whether that they could have confused that with actually Oscar calling out for help, and it was not a female voice.
Yes, that is the other thing, was that the defense saying that Oscar Pistorius does tend to sound pretty high-pitched. He can sound like a woman at times of distress. Now, what kind of test, how do you perform a test like that? How do you bring that to court?
Well, all of these tests are so-called qualitative tests. It would be an expert testifying based on his experience on what they've seen in other similar cases. I think what they're also going to call is an expert on acoustics to dispute the fact that what they heard, whether they could have confused the gunshots, the bashing of the door with a cricket bat, and those would be more important facts than the actual distance and the test that's been simulated now.
Because one has to wonder, yes, we know, he's admitted, yes, he did shoot. Yes, that those bullets, one of those bullets or two of those bullets is what killed Rudolph Zinn. So why would we even need to go there to determine whether he shot? Because we're here to determine why he did it.
Well, his explanation that it was self-defense. Self-defense would mean that he was under threat at that time. It was an imminent threat, and it was a threat to his life. And he's been saying all along in his bail application that there was an intruder, and he reacted to the intruder. The prosecution has been saying that there was a fight just before the shooting took place. And this is where the call out for help would be very important.
Okay, so that would be the distress call where he might have sounded like a woman at that point.
That's correct, or whether there was a fight before the time.
Now, in terms of the actual, in his plea explanation, he also alluded to contamination of the crime scene, possible contamination of the crime scene. Can this case actually go his way? What about contamination of the crime scene would actually put this in Oscar's favor if police behaved in what manner on the scene?
Well, I think the most important factor which will come into play here is the possible contamination, if there was any, of the door. And it's the primer residue or the gunshot residue on the door that will determine the distance from which the shots were fired. Now, police officers handle on a daily basis their firearms, so their hands are usually contaminated as far as that is concerned. And if they had not used gloves at the crime scene, they might possibly have contaminated the door as well.
Now, you also have some thoughts, Rudolph, on the actual issue. The other issue yesterday was the broadcasting of a file picture of witness Michelle Berger, who asked that her face not be televised during her testimony. Just your thoughts on that. I mean, was it a completely unreasonable thing to do, is to get a picture that was available to the public to actually put on screen at the time that she was testifying, but not a picture from court?
In my opinion, not. Obviously, the court has made an order on that, but even in some of the newspapers yesterday, a picture was shown of this witness. And I think the whole issue about not broadcasting images during the trial is to make sure that the witnesses are not intimidated to say or to do anything else at the time.
At that specific time.
Yeah. And which might have an influence at the outcome of the trial. But showing a photograph of them afterwards, I don't believe there can be a ban on that per se.
All right, thank you very much. Certainly lots and lots of side issues arising here at the Oscar Pistorius trial. It is day 3, Dan. That's Rudolph Zinn just filling us in on some of the other details, the finer details, the forensic details here. He is a professor in policing and forensic investigation at eNCA. It's back to you.
You deserve to know more.
eNCA.com